Oh, hey friends, let's talk about 6 specific benefits of strength training. This is video number 5 in a series that we are calling Longevity on a Fire Truck. My name is Scott. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist and a firefighter. In the past videos, we have talked about mobility, knee health, injury prevention, and we talked about the Mensch method. It's important in our jobs to be able to move heavy objects, to be able to move equipment and patience, and be able to move our own bodies with strength and power. Strength training is important for our job performance. And let's talk about 6 specific benefits. Number 1, we're talking about the increased efficiency of your nervous system. In untrained individuals, they can only activate about 71% of their existing muscle tissue, even under a max effort. So over time, with the resistance training program, you're able to recruit more muscle fibers, more motor units. You're also able to increase the firing rate of those motor units and the synchronization, the timing and coordination of those motor units. Another thing that will occur is a decrease in the antagonist muscle activation. In a bench press, for example, you're going to use your biceps, your rear delts, and upper back to kind of stabilize during the movement. A beginner will use much more of those antagonist muscles than a trained individual. Over time, they'll figure out the right balance, the right amount of antagonist muscle to use just to stabilize. Another thing we're talking about is coordination of movement patterns. When you first try squatting or deadlifting or bench pressing, you will be somewhat uncoordinated. Over time, you get better at these movement patterns, and that is all about your nervous system and the communication between your brain and the muscles. Another factor in improved efficiency of the nervous system is selective recruitment. Normally, you're going to recruit fibers to produce force from the smallest fibers to the biggest, from slow twitch up to fast twitch. But over time, a trained individual is able to kind of, especially in an explosive movement, take jumping, for example, able to bypass those slow twitch and immediately engage and recruit the bigger fast twitch fibers. So you're able to kind of change and selectively recruit which fibers get used. One other thing is the neuromuscular junction. That is the interface between the motor neuron and the muscle fibers. That gets larger and better able to transmit signals back and forth. You also have sensory receptors in your tendons. They're called Golgi tendon organs, and their job is kind of like a governor. They restrict force production, and their job basically is to keep you from injuring yourself. And they are very active when you are untrained or minimally trained. Over time, they get adjusted to the training program, and their threshold for activation becomes much higher. We have another sensory receptor called a muscle spindle. These reside in the muscles alongside the muscle fibers. Their job is to initiate the stretch reflex. And a simple example of the stretch reflex is when you go to the doctor, you sit on his table and he taps you right below the knee. He's tapping on the patella tendon, which is attached to your quad. He taps on the patella tendon, stretches the quad a little bit, and then the quad engages. The stretch reflex is basically the idea that a stretched muscle, if it's rapidly stretched, that muscle is going to want to contract. And the stretch reflex can become more effective over time with strength training. There have been studies showing that the stretch reflex can become 19 to 55% more effective with a strength training program. Let's talk about hormones for a minute. Resistance training generally won't affect your chronic levels of various hormones, but it can and certainly does affect acute levels during and post exercise. One of those is the catecholamines, that is norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine. Using weights like 75% of your 1 rep max and up will affect the acute response of the catecholamines. And their job basically is increasing force production, energy availability, blood flow, blood pressure, and the catecholamines will augment the secretion of other hormones like testosterone. You will have acute increases in growth hormone as well from strength training. Something that promotes the release of growth hormone is an acidic muscular environment like you have with exercise and with strength training. Also using weights that are 75% of your 1 rep max and up. We're talking moderate to heavy volume, at least 3 sets per exercise, and also short rest periods. We're talking about a minute or so of rest. Those factors will increase your acute levels of growth hormone post-exercise. Testosterone, we're going to see increases in testosterone. Again, this is acute, like right post-exercise, not on a continuous chronic level. But we'll see increases in testosterone with exercises involving large muscle groups and compound movements like deadlifts and squats. Heavy weights, 85% of your 1 RM and above. And again, we're talking about moderate to heavy volume, at least 3 sets per exercise. And again, short rest, about a minute rest between sets will maximize the amount of testosterone that is being released post-exercise. One more hormone we'll talk about is cortisol. Cortisol definitely has catabolic properties, and that's why what most people think about it. It's got a bad name because of that. And chronic levels of high cortisol are bad. We don't want to have that. But acute increases in cortisol are necessary post-exercise. Exercise is going to cause some level of exercise-induced muscle damage. You're going to get that from strength training. And then cortisol comes in. It is necessary for tissue remodeling, and it helps to remove damaged proteins. What about bone health? Strength training is excellent for your bones. Once you pass it's called the minimal essential strain threshold, that's when you begin remodeling and bone growth. That minimal essential strain is about 1/10 the amount of stress it would cause to fracture a bone. So once you start doing activities that are like weight bearing and start to exceed that minimal essential strain, that's when you start to get bone growth, bone size and density of your bones will increase. It makes common sense, but resistance trained athletes have higher bone density than untrained individuals. Connective tissues such as cartilage, tendons, and ligaments can also be strengthened over time with resistance training. We're talking about smart, progressive, overloaded programming using full range of motion exercises will promote joint health and strengthening of your tendons, ligaments, and cartilage. All right, I think we all know this one, that a strength training regimen with proper diet, taking in the right amount of protein and consistently sticking to a program will increase the amount of muscle mass that you carry around, and that will in turn decrease the percent of body fat that you have. The last thing we're talking about is stored energy. A strength training program is going to greatly increase the amount of stored energy you have in your muscles. We're talking about ATP, we're talking about creatine phosphate, and we're talking about muscle glycogen. There have been studies that have showed an increase in ATP of 18%, an increase in creatine phosphate of 28%, and an increase in muscle glycogen of 112% after engaging in strength training over a period of time. And that's it, people. Thanks for sticking with me this long. Please, if you get an opportunity, comment, like or dislike, subscribe to the channel, share the video, give me some engagement. That'll help me out a lot. We'll see you next time.